I really enjoy hunting feral hogs, and my favorite technique to hunt them is spot and stalk. Hogs have a great sense of smell, and I find the most important thing to closing the distance on a hog is making sure the wind is in your favor. Bottlenecks can also be a huge key to getting within range of hogs. I recall a couple years ago in South Florida when I was hunting hogs, and I saw a sounder out in a dry flag pond or a dry wet area. There happened to be a tree on the edge of that wetland where hogs been rubbing, and I thought they'd probably come by there, so I closed the distance to that rub, waited for them, and sure enough, it worked out. You're not always gonna find a hog rub, but other features could be terrain, a food plot, or even a feeder to know where hogs are going and be able to cut the distance. I recently traveled to Alabama, just south of Tuscaloosa, to hunt hogs with my friend Mark. And that afternoon, Daniel and I were cruising around one of the clubs where he hunts and saw a hog out in a food plot. Now, it was just before dark, and we knew we were gonna have trouble closing the distance. A bunch of the food plot was kind of surrounded by the old dozer pile where they had kind of pushed out trees to make the food plot, and it made the approach difficult. Given how late in the day it was, we decided we'd try to wait for that hog to turn away from us and just cut the distance to get within range, but it just didn't work out. We pushed it a bit hard. That hog knew something was up and scooted over that dozer pile. See if we can find another. You may think we're crazy trying to cut across the open, but hogs have relatively poor eyesight. And I've seen several times where if I just watch closely and don't move when they're looking, I can cut the distance and get in bow range. That's a good one right there. That's a prime hog. The hunt wasn't over, even though it was getting dark, because we'd brought the Winchester Legend 350 with the new Burris Thermal mounted on it. Perfect hog gun, man, those shots are gonna be 100 yards or so. Lots of knockdown with that 350, and the thermal allows us to continue hunting after dark. Our strategy was use that handheld during our spot and stalk. Just get on a logging road or something, be checking out the timber, the fields, try to find a critter, and then if we did, close the distance and use that scope on the rifle. A handheld is really important because that means you're not swinging the rifle everywhere, pointing it at unknown objects. Our strategy at Mark's property was to ease across a pond dam because the wind was such it was gonna blow our scent over about an 8-acre pond, and we could look down off that dam into some hardwood bottomland. Hogs love to root around in those hardwood bottoms. Boy, they tear it up, make a mess. But on the opposite side of the pond is about an 8-acre food plot. We thought the hogs might be working through that bottom, coming up to that food plot. So we're going to the food plot as our destination, but we can hunt along the way using that handheld. Our bottleneck for this hunt was a feeder kind of on the edge of the food plot. We thought the hogs might come up to that bottom, swing through some more hardwood timber, stop by the feeder before going out into the food plot. As we were quietly making our way across the dam, we spotted something in the timber. It was in some trees and behind a log. Man, I was excited. But once I got honed in and the critter started moving, I actually started hopping away because it was a big old swamp rabbit. That's a rabbit. Anytime you're hunting, it's extremely important to identify your target and even what's beyond your target. That's why Mark was with us. He knew the lay of the land really well. When you're hunting at night with a thermal, that's even more critical. Don't just see a hot spot out there and throw up the firearm. Take your time and study it. Fortunately, with the Burris, we knew right away it wasn't a hog. This was my first hunt with the thermal mounted on a rifle or a thermal rifle scope. We'd used a Burris handheld last year in Florida, and I was amazed at how well we could see critters out in the pastures.
Growing Deer is brought to you by Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's. Also by Green Cover Food Plots, Winchester, Lacrosse Footwear, Fleet Outdoor Apparel, Morel Targets, RTP Outdoors, Fourth Arrow, Hunt Stand, Scorpion Venom Archery, Case IH tractors, Burris optics, G5 broadheads, prime bows, and redneck hunting blinds.
As we slowly stalked a bit closer to the feeder, we saw a group of hogs in the timber. As we watched the hogs, they moved from the timber into the food plot. If you look closely, you can see a couple of deer behind the hogs. There was a fair amount of brush in the way, and I didn't feel we could close the distance without alerting those hogs, so we decided we'd move on and allow those hogs to swing around and potentially come out into the larger plot where we were headed.
Watch your steps, a bunch of sticks here.
As we came around the corner into the larger portion of the food plot, we spotted a good-sized hog under a feeder. We were just about 100 yards from the feeder, so I decided to kneel down to get a bit more solid rest than shooting offhand.
Here we go. Ready? Her dad hit him.
As I knew it would, that Winchester Legend 350 thumped that hog, and it didn't go far.
That's a beast.
And we're down south of Aliceville, Alabama with our friend Mark, and he invited us to come hog hunting. The night hunting or use of a thermal just opened up here in Alabama, got the right tags, and saw this large sow out there by the feeder, and she started working towards the timber, so I took the shot. Gosh, I think she made it 80 or 100 yards, piled up right here just off the field. Big sow out of population. Of course, sows are the reproductive units, and sows are the better eating hogs, so all good. My first night hunt with the Burris Thermal, and I gotta tell you, I love this, man, because we saw deer and rabbits and other critters and could easily identify a hog. Of course, it was out in the open, and we're going to, really celebrate this and hopefully tag another one.
Using the spot and stalk technique is one of my favorite ways to chase critters. And I'll share with you, when I was younger, it wasn't a very effective technique, and I gave up on it a little bit, but that's because of my errors. I was doing a whole lot more stalking and not as much spotting. I've learned now just to take a step or two, look all around, depending on the situation. If I'm bow hunting by myself, even look behind me, see if a deer crept in behind me. I do a whole lot more looking and a whole lot less stalking, and I've certainly increased the number of game coming home to my freezer.
That's a hog right there, boys and girls.
This technique's also a great way to learn about critters. You're moving through habitat, watching how they move, seeing sign as you're going. It's a great way to get MRI, most recent information. I used to give a seminar about this technique called Hunting Like a Bobcat. I learned a lot by watching. In fact, recently we had a trail camera video of a bobcat trying to stalk a young buck. Watch close and notice how this bobcat chooses to move when the buck's head is down. Watching four-legged predators is a great way for us two-legged predators to learn. Learning when to move, when not to move, seeking bottlenecks. If you really pay attention to bobcats, they may just be cruising through the timber, but they get close to a brush pile or where there might be some mice, a rabbit or turkey, they get in stalk mode. I try to move quickly when I'm going to the area where I want to hunt. I don't think there's any game there, and then get in bobcat mode when I'm getting close. I really enjoyed using the Burris Thermal, and in fact, we're going to be chasing coyotes with it here soon. Being able to see critters at night is another fun and educational way to enjoy creation. But it's even more important to be intentional about seeking the Creator's will for our life. Thanks for watching Growing Deer.